Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the shop. 27 degrees, very chilly. We have a serious problem. Is there anything worse than a mechanical problem that's intermittent? Meaning it works, it doesn't work, it works, it doesn't work. We've all experienced it before, right? Something's wrong with your car, light comes on, you take it to the mechanic, of course it works perfectly. I mean, just the way that it is. It's really hard to chase those things down. The snow bike trailer has a serious wiring problem. As Jack and I was coming back from Stanley, Idaho 2 weeks ago, first off, the switch for the power door quit working, and then half the lights on one side started flickering off and on, and just made our trip really a hassle because we had to drive at night. I'm going to show you how to diagnose trailer wiring problems. You got to look to the ground. It's almost always the ground, and there's a couple indicators that'll point that out. Let me show you what the problem is I'm having and see if we can't figure this out together. You expect old trailers to give you trouble, not so much the new ones. Yeah, I could warranty it, but that's 2 days of driving, and I just don't have time. I'll figure it out myself. How trailers are done, how it's done is you've got 12 volts that when you come in with 12 volts from the car or truck, you got to come in with a power. You got to have a power and a ground, right? So with a trailer that has a lot of electronics in it, lots of wires, radios, heaters and stuff, you don't want to run miles of ground wires all the way back up to the top front. That's why you ground the trailer. They'll do studs. They'll actually turn the frame into a ground, and that way you can just grab the frame wherever, anywhere, and that's your ground, and that causes problems. I think that's the majority of the problems that we get with trailers is grounds not put in properly, put on with struck in with paint, all rust, corrosion. I mean, trailer wiring is garbage. It's not up to automotive grade. Let's start by looking at the grounds. I guess we'll start with the front and work our way back. First ground should be here, this junction box. Stubby. Wasn't I just telling you didn't need one? Perfect example of a tight spot where you do need one. You do need them from time to time. All right, what do we got going on in here? Oh, already, this is shameful. Just shameful. The guy that wired this trailer up, he very well knew that what he did here, but he did it anyway, just to cut corners. See that? This is the hot lead coming in, big fat wire. Look at the insulation, probably a quarter of it's worn off in less than a year because he didn't put any sort of protective, those little covers in here to keep that wire from rubbing off there. So what does that tell you about the rest of the wiring on here? I mean, we got the cheapo blue connectors on here. Oh, not a good sign. Right in there, so a nice proper ground. And now if we wiggle these wires, if that's loose, then that should activate the running lights. And it does not. The second grounding stud is inside here in the battery compartment, which I already have open. This light, bro, that's the best I've ever used. I'm starting to understand why you guys fanboy over Milwaukee's new cordless tools, because they are good. The few that I have are good anyway. Okay, so we have a ground stud right there. I don't see that sharing. That's not really a shared ground. That's just for the batteries. If we shake that, that's obviously not loose. Shake all these connections. Nothing happens. I don't think that's it. There's another ground stud under this cover, but the fact that the lights are not working on the back and then there is a ground stud on the back, I'm gonna go there. We'll check this if we don't get any luck, but I doubt that there. I think it's probably got something to do back here with the lights. Now I think it's really curious that the first problem I noticed was the switch quit working for the door. And when that quit working, and this side of the lights, that tells me that there's probably a common ground that's being shared by all this stuff that is causing this not to work. And they told me it was in here. So we pulled off all the covers here, took the speaker out. So all these wires run up. Where's the ground go? There we go. Oh, look at that. Oh, we just found it right there. Look. So you can see this is the outside marker light that's not working. But as soon as I grab these wires, let me go wide. As soon as I grab these wires, you see that? Is that the stud? Yeah, there we go. There's the problem. Holmes didn't tighten the bolt. Simple as that. There you go. That's your ground problem. See that? Jumping around, not making contact, not completing the circuit. Because, and they even went to the trouble to put a nice bolt on there, or a nut on there. They put a nylock on there so it wouldn't back off, but it's never been tightened. It's just overlooked by the electrician that installed this. So electricians, if I didn't have enough gripe against you, not only do you not clean up after yourself, you don't finish a job, and you cause poor professional homeowners like myself to have aggravation. My dad made the statement years ago. I asked him, how much time do you think is wasted over a course of a man's life fixing another man's shoddy work? He said probably half of everything that we do is fixing or finding a workaround for someone else's shoddy work, 50%. That wouldn't surprise me a bit. Can you imagine what we could do if everyone did their best? How much easier life would be. Looks like everything's working. So yesterday, I upgraded my propane tanks. I had just the little tiny guys. This feeds the furnace, and they don't last that long. I've noticed that after longer, like 3 or 4 day trips, you run out. So I pulled these big ones off the Arctic Fox, and all we had to do to make that work, if you ever want to put the big tanks on your trailer, is you just replace that piece of all thread with a longer one. This is just the clamp that holds it down, and these are much taller. So we just went to the hardware store, got a new piece that was longer, and voila, you can put as big a tanks on there as you want. All right, let's put the lights back in. Porch light, so that was part of that ground problem as well. Now the lift gate, yeah, that was it. That was nothing wrong with it, it just didn't have a ground. So let's hook that back up. Fortunately, it's on a spring, so when this failed on us, we couldn't get it open. I thought it was frozen, but it was just the ground. I guess that's why they put that quick attach pin on there, because they know it's going to give you trouble. Looks like they put some nice little grease zerks on there. Those were pretty dry. That feels a lot better. While we're at it, let's address that wire up front that's getting the insulation scrubbed off. And of course, the proper way to do that is to use these guys right here. So when you're coming out of a metal box, imagine this right there, with the holes punched in it, these edges are sharp. So when the wire goes by those, if it bends across there, that'll scrape all the insulation off there, and that'll cause you all sorts of problems. So they've designed these guys here, these little strain relievers, to go in there, and these give you kind of a chamfered or softer edges that won't braid that wire. Now that's the proper way to do it. We have to cut the wire to do that. If you want a field expedient way, then we'll look to some old fuel line. In the bottom of my utility cabinet, I never throw away old hoses, heater hoses, water hoses, fuel line hoses. My granddad did the same thing. He always kept this stuff around. It's handy for so many things. But one thing that's really tough is fuel line. It's some of the toughest rubber you can get your hands on, and it makes a great, anytime you have a wire that's chafing, it works really good because you can take and cut a small piece off, split it with a razor knife, and then zip tie it back together, and then this will take all that abrasion, you know, for as long as you need it, because it's pretty thick. I'll just take, I don't need much, 3 or 4 inches. And then we'll split this. On one side. Of course, the old zip tie trick, if you take your pliers and you twist them, then you don't get that sharp edge that will cut you to ribbons. And there we have it. Problem solved. Well, that was easier than I thought. I had the whole day set aside because I knew this was going to cause me all sorts of problems. If you don't have one of these lights, check this out. Growing up, my granddad always had what he called trouble lights. You know, the old school ones on the cord. He had one that hung down from the ceiling. And I remember he would use these special light bulbs. They were called rough service bulbs. They had a super thick element in there, and you could drop them. I mean, they were tough. He had lights that this last for years. But again, we had the cord, you know, and that was a pretty good design. It had a hook on it, just like this. And I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. Just kind of an armored light, just kind of old schools. But this is very similar with that, but it's the fact that it sits on its battery, and it will sit in, even with a small battery, it's not top heavy, it doesn't tip over. So you can adjust that light to the angle, and then the hook that swivels so you can turn to any direction. But the really cool part, check this out. This Milwaukee stuff is really nice, actually. It's got a hook on there, so if let's say you need to have it light straight down, like you can hook this up on your hood latch if you're working on your car. You'll be able to have this, and then the fact that it adjusts on there to compensate for, I'm assuming, for different batteries, like if you had a bigger battery on there so it'll sit flat. This is clever. It's a clever design and really nicely made. They didn't use the cheapo plastic. Like some of those tools that I bought a set of rigids one time where you get the whole pack, and you know, you give you a light and a drill and an impact driver and all that. But the light was like super poor quality. It was didn't last very long, made from cheap plastic. But this is really nice. They use the same plastic as the drills, and the color of the LEDs, it's a warm color. It's not that really disgusting, like super white blue like you see on some LEDs. I like a warmer, more incandescent light. This is about the best light. It definitely is the best light that I've ever used. So if you're looking for a good trouble light, I would highly recommend it. I was going to get the M12 version, but I couldn't find one. Well, I already got the M18 batteries. I'll just stick with that, and I'm glad I did, because this sits flat, and that's where you really need it when you're working under your car. All right, well, thanks for watching. Jack and I are heading over to the Wallallas tomorrow for 3 days of snow biking with some friends. It looks like it's going to be good over there. So today we're going to just get all the gear ready, and I thought that this was going to be an all-day project, but I'm glad that we got it figured out. Go through everything and just make sure we got all of our gear, and then we'll head out and we'll be vlogging from the road. So that's what we'll be doing this weekend. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.
7 hours driving on the highway, far away, far away, far away. Every moment I was spending on regrets was such a waste, such a waste, such a waste. Looking on the city lights, flashing bright in my eyes. Look up to the sky and I got this relief inside, and there's no need to hide.